grilled chicken and a
Trying to watch those carbs.
Man, I lost 60 pounds on keto, buddy.
I
know it works for some people. It doesn't work for others.
Keto's tough.
It is. Well, let's see. It looks like we are live, Tim. From everything that my YouTube is telling me, we're live. So, double check this, and we'll see a couple people pop in here real quick, and we will go.
Yeah, mine says we're live too.
Nice.
So apparently we're live, David.
Is that how that works then?
Shocking but true.
So everybody, welcome. If you haven't yet, I keep encouraging you guys to go over to Tim's site. Tim does live Mondays. They're a lot of fun. Tim does more than just Nissan, unlike us. Tim has expanded to the whole world of pickup trucks and SUVs, where we just seem to be dumb and limited to one brand that can't seem to stay afloat. Tim, welcome to the show, first off.
Well, thanks for having me, David. I'm excited to be here.
Well, it's funny, so give some backstory here. So I got to know you sometime, it seems like a year ago. We chatted back and forth, and just then we got to meet in Chicago and stuff. And I've really liked what you've done. I like the way your channel operates. You're an enthusiast, obviously. You love pickup trucks, but you're also a journalist, and you have the perfect balance to me of the two. It's not, sometimes these YouTubers can be boring. They're too much journalists and not enough actually like cars and trucks, and you seem to fit the balance great.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I have a passion for it, which it comes through my videos, and it's been a fun journey growing a YouTube channel, and I call it, I shouldn't say YouTube channel, it's growing a YouTube community.
Right.
That's how I kind of see it. And getting like-minded people together and talking about trucks and having, adult conversations about trucks. We're not screaming at each other and dropping F-bombs all the time. And just sharing the passion. There's so many people in my industry that would much rather drive a manual Miata or a Porsche. And I really couldn't give a shit about either one of those vehicles. So right. I just like trucks. And it's not a oddball thing because the truck journalist industry considers us to be this small niche of journalists.
Yeah. Because
the industry is so wide, most people don't understand trucks in this business.
Yeah, it is very strange, and I don't know if it's just because all through the 60s, 70s, and 80s, sports cars were, for automotive, sports cars were the thing to talk about. Yeah, they would talk about the boring Maximas or whatever every once in a while, but it seemed like if you ever picked up a car and driver or motor trend, like you were out, I know for me as a kid, I was looking for the sports cars. They never covered trucks. So I think that years of journalism has just trickled down, and now that trucks are popular, some of these guys are scrambling to, catch up with people like you.
To understand, to get it. Clearly to get it, they miss that stuff a lot. I had a rather, I don't know, I'm going to call it infamous, but a rather interesting discussion with the former car and driver editor. He'd been there since for 10 years. Mm-hmm. I met him 2 years ago in Golden at an event, and him and I sat across the table sharing a beer talking about trucks. And I might have got a little heated in that conversation. I might have said a few things that maybe I come to regret, but it was very, very clear that he had no clue what was going on. He was shocked to move from Michigan to Golden, Colorado, and he didn't understand how many trucks were in his neighborhood. He didn't know why people even bought the trucks, and he actually had to put down sandbags because the way his driveway got into the sidewalk and went down to the street, he couldn't get his Porsche over the hump there, so he had to use sandbags to drive his tires on to get down. And I felt about much sorry for him.
Yeah.
About that much.
Yeah.
And him and I had a very spirited conversation, and I probably made an impression.
Well, you always remember. That's right.
Yeah, I don't know. It's always funny. Like, I grew up in Michigan and lived in Denver, and I've had some cars over the years, things I've bought, but I've always wanted to buy trucks, and I've always owned trucks. And now I have my 62 that I drive all the time when he's running, when he's playing nice.
Right.
And I just always enjoy trucks. And I live in Western Nebraska. Like, a truck is the thing to have out here. And I have so many things. It's always funny. It's like, I'll do SUV, and then it's like, oh, I get a truck. And I'm like, all of a sudden I have 15 things to do. Like, I got to do all this stuff in this week I have this truck.
Yeah.
And I never had enough days. I never could spend. I mean, I could spend all my time in trucks.
Well, that's what I'm worried about. With my Titans leases up, I'm like, I have my company vehicle and stuff, but it's got a topper and stuff. Like, I don't have a truck anymore, or I won't next week. And so, yeah, I'm in the same boat of like, I've always had trucks. So I'm like, my little Juke, which I know you love, is not going to cut it as a truck. But what we brought you on tonight about, Tim, was you've got to spend the week basically with the new 2020 Frontier, and I know my audience they're super excited. Trust me, I get every day they know that I have a picture of the 2021, and they're always wanting to know about it. But you got to drive a piece of that 2021 with the 2020 Frontier and the new engine and transmission.
Yeah, so I got it on Tuesday afternoon. And immediately I went for a drive because I wanted to go for a drive.
Right.
And I went to the bank and drove around town a little bit. And then I drove Wednesday to the car dealership and wanted to check out the 2019 versus the 20. And so I did that. And then had to do a Lexus review today. But I've been driving it as much as I can. You know, the good part of this job is that I can drive a lot of vehicles. The bad part of this job is a lot of the work occurs right here.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the office, and that's the crap part. I don't always get a chance to drive it. My plan is to put a lot more miles on this weekend, but I can tell you that from just immediately hopping in the cabin and hitting the start button and going, that it is fundamentally different than the 2019 model.
So it just
that 9-speed transmission with that engine it's so much smoother. I swear to God, there's a turbo underneath the engine. I mean, it just feels like there's a turbocharged engine.
Right.
It's so quick without being like. I always felt like the prior generation with the 5-speed had it would burn the rear tires in first gear.
Mm-hmm.
It just was set up so poorly. I mean, but that's what they had, right? The 5 years that's set up that way. This one is just so much smoother, so much quicker. You just I don't even need to do a 0 to 60. I tell you, this thing's quicker. I mean, you don't need to do the testing because you know it is.
Right.
And it feels so much smoother. You fly through the gears, and then I was driving home tonight from the golf course because I played a certain amount of golf, and I was doing 45, and I was putting in there's a slot with the shifter. You put it in manual mode and see what gear you're in. I was in 7th gear, 45 miles an hour at 1,600 RPMs, and I know from watching other videos, and I haven't done it yet, but I know at 70 miles an hour you can go 8th gear and run about 1,600 RPMs, and so it's just a much more smoother experience. Much better fuel economy. Mine has a tilt on the gauge for the what do I say, for the odometer and for the triple meter. That's what I'm going to say, triple meter. They don't. What's cool about my job is I can drive and get fuel economy, but the guys who drive it up, they don't reset it when they get here from Denver for the triple meter. So I have 320 miles on this truck, and it's showing 20.7 miles per gallon.
Right.
Which is pretty close to 22 that Nissan says it's probably going to get for the 4-wheel drive.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have a Pro 4X. So that's pretty much spot on. I mean, maybe within a mile per gallon either way, which I don't know the truck guy cares about 1 mile per gallon either way.
Right.
And so, you're looking at about 20.7, which is competitive in the segment.
Right.
The horsepower is the best in class, which is impressive in that it does not need premium fuel, which I made sure to ask. And
nice.
Had a press conference on Tuesday, or not press conference, but I had a Zoom meeting with the team on Tuesday, and I made that a point to ask that question because that just pisses me off about the Titan. But it does not take premium fuel. It takes regular octane fuel, and 300, the number, 310?
310,
in that range.
And 281 torque, I think.
It was 281, but it's like 30 horsepower better than the prior gen. And that transmission gets better fuel economy, and so it's the real deal. I mean, it's so much more smooth, so much more fun to drive, without having a jerkiness at all.
Yeah.
And as far as off the line speed, and it just flies, just absolutely flies.
Well, this was because in November I got to test out the 9-speed transmission. This is the first time you've got to mess with Nissan's 9-speed, right?
That is correct. I'm a broken windshield away from driving the new 2020 Nissan Titan.
Nice.
No, literally, they're going to bring it to me, and they broke a windshield, and so they had to get it fixed, and they sent it to Utah.
Oh, nice.
Am I bitter about that?
Huh? No, we haven't talked about that. Yes. But so I noticed in the Titan, of course, I'm sure the gearing is slightly different versus the Frontier, but I almost didn't notice when it was shifting. It almost, this, and my audience will hate this, it felt sort of like a CVT in a sense that I didn't notice, like, unless I really got into it, where it would downshift. Like, the shifting in this 9-speed is super smooth.
Yeah, I would say it's the same idea. I would not say CVT,
right,
because of CVT, but I would say electric car.
Yeah.
In that it's almost, you just hit the gas and go. You don't worry about the shifting patterns. This has got the same. What did they say in the press conference? I think it's got the same mechanicals as the 9-speed and the Titan, but it's set up completely different.
Yeah.
The gearing's a little bit different, and the software shift patterns are different, obviously, because you're dealing with like half the truck, right?
Right.
The curb weight is the Titan versus this is half, so you can't do the same thing. But it is pretty incredible. I was surprised that the power and offline and how much fun it is, and the fuel economy in a naturally aspirated engine. In my world, it's like if you haven't gone turbo, you haven't gone hybrid, you're not doing anything. That's what these manufacturers are doing. So to be able to have a naturally aspirated engine to do this well performance is really impressive, and it really is nice. I don't have to worry about turbos, I don't have to worry about hybrid, I don't have to worry about this stuff. I have this right here in this engine, and it's more fuel efficient.
Right. Well, do you think maybe that's part of, because I hear it all the time, and I'm sure you do, Nissan, they're so late to the game, they haven't refreshed the vehicle, blah, blah, blah. And I know in 16, I believe it was, we were going to get the global version, Navara, and then new leadership stepped in and said, no, that truck's not built for the American market. And so Nissan sort of scrambled, and I think sort of they're scrambling now is they're getting that motor right to launch for 2021. And of course, you seem to think this is a lighter vehicle now, right?
It is. The curb weight, I was watching TFL, and they were doing their thing, and looking at the numbers on the door sticker, I think this vehicle is 300 pounds less.
Yeah. Which is like carrying
from 1,000 to 1,300.
Yeah, it's like losing a person, basically, out of the vehicle.
Losing me. Anyways, so I think that the engine, I know the engine is lighter, and I know that the front end, there's been a lot of conversation about the front end, and what I'm finding from different people I'm talking to is that there's more of different metals used in the front end that are lighter weight metals. So in the front end, they look like they put another $200 in there to put some high-strength steel in there, it looks like, versus the regular steel.
Right.
And it looks like it made past crash testing better, and it's lighter. Huh. So this truck is overall, I think, going to be a lighter truck.
Well, did they happen to tell you, because I know you're in the Pro 4X version, did they happen to tell you if they changed the gearing in the rear axle?
No, they didn't say anything. And this is the maddening thing about this is Nissan has been, God, it's just weird. It's just weird. We don't know towing or payload.
Right.
We didn't know fuel economy until Tuesday. We didn't know any other changes. Like, I'm seeing changes that they didn't talk about. It's just a weird truck, and it's just a weird messaging. It's a unicorn, is what it really is.
Yeah, and you had seen in one of my streams a couple weeks ago, somebody had asked about, will they ever get this vehicle out? And I know you hinted on this a little bit about on your previous live stream, I think two of them ago, that, like you were just saying, it's going to be a unicorn vehicle. Like, because I'm hearing talk that the plants are going to fire up back in May, the 1st of May. They were already building the pickup, I know for a fact. But I know when I worked for Nissan, they would build about 500 pickups a day. So I want to say they started, it was mid-January when they kicked in on this. So they've got sort of dealer supply ready. They've got enough to start getting to dealers. But when do they shut it off? Because I know Nissan, they either shut down for model change in July, the 4th of July week, or they do it in August. So you're not talking a lot of time to build this vehicle.
That's always an interesting question, and that's been brought up many times. You got to understand that first unicorn, I also call it a sleeper truck. So, like, if you drive this 2020 next to a 2019, it's a total sleeper truck. Like, this 2020 blows away 19 off the line.
Yeah.
But you can't tell because the damn thing looks identical, right?
Yeah, there's no badging or anything that would tell you otherwise, right?
No, there's no clue. Like, you're gonna blow them off the line, and be like, no, boo boo, and they have no idea that happened, right? I would suspect with COVID going on that Nissan's going to push back the 2021 Frontier until the spring of next year.
Really?
Yeah, because if you look at the timing, right? So they just did this with a Titan. They just did this with a Titan, and the Texas State Fair was what in
October?
Was it down in Texas? October.
Yeah.
I believe it's 1st of October, end of September was Texas State Fair, and then they announced a 2020 Titan there, and they started producing them in December that year, December, January kind of that year, because you did the Titan Adventure, like in November,
November
December.
14th, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that came out December. So if they follow the same time period, which would make sense with COVID pushing stuff back, I would not suspect a 2021 Frontier until the spring of 2021. Yeah, the spring of 2021. I would not suspect anything coming up by then. And what's interesting is, I was doing that conference call, and we were doing Zoom, and I was with several other journalists, and one of them said on the call, and it was a really pointed question, and he was being polite. He says, the real question with this is, what reason would a person have to buy the 2020 model and not wait for the 2021?
Right.
And they didn't answer that. They took it offline.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
But I was like, that's a solid question. And Tim, I was doing that car guy Tim's video today, and he asked the same question. And I think that's the biggest question for people. I think if you need a truck right now and you're looking for a smaller size, a good price point, because they haven't announced pricing on this either.
Right.
But I suspect pricing is going to be pretty damn close to what the 2019 model is. If you need that price point, you need something reliable, because the Frontier has been pretty damn reliable. It's like neck and neck with Toyota Tacoma, really, and all the reliability things I have seen. You like the size, price, reliability, and you need a truck now, Frontier is a great choice.
Right.
But if you're sitting back and you're an enthusiast, it's a hard sell to say, let me buy this now and then push off the 2021. That doesn't make any sense.
Right. Yeah, and they've already had enough bad press. I know they were gearing up. This was going to be their turnaround truck. Or vehicle for Nissan. This was really they were going to get a lot of press for this vehicle when it comes out. I was told by another journalist, if you had any information, either GTR or the Frontier pickup is the two things that you want to know from Nissan as a journalist right now. So they were going to get a lot of stuff from this, and it's a shame. For one, it's a shame that it might push the truck back, but we've talked privately that it might be actually a good thing for Nissan, because they're not spending a lot of money right now. They're not building vehicles that they can't sell. They're getting like a factory reset right now. It's like turning your computer on and off. We're starting over, and it might actually benefit Nissan versus some of the other makers, right?
Yeah, I think there's an argument to be made, about whether or not they, why didn't they just update this truck? Why didn't they just launch a new Frontier? And people understand is that's a lot of sheet metal changes.
Mm-hmm.
Sheet metal changes on a truck, I've heard estimates of upwards of $500 million.
Yeah.
To make that sheet metal changes. So when you're selling a truck in the range of 24,000 to 28,000, and you sell about 10,000 per every 3 months, and you want to spend $500 million to update sheet metal, that's a little tough. And being that Nissan's gone through 3 CEOs in 2 years, leadership's all over the across the board, sales are down, that's a lot of money to spend. I would theorize you can hold on to this 2020, milk it as long as they can, because it's a cash cow at this point, and then use that money to invest in the next truck, because I think that's where they're at. They said in the press in the Zoom meeting they have 4 prototypes that they have sent from Japan to the United States. They can send them to the proving grounds. They're doing testing on those prototypes.
Well, that's strange to me, because I heard that from some other source, and I know they design and build the trucks here. So why were they in Japan? Right?
Right. The fact of the matter is, Nissan is a very Japanese-controlled company.
Yes.
Toyota is as well, but not as bad as Nissan. Nissan is very Japanese-controlled. Mm-hmm. All right. And the other fact of the matter is, I think that they had to send that back to Japan to have them go through the design and make sure it's exactly what they wanted, because they have so many things riding on this truck.
Yeah.
They have really fumbled the Titan. I'm sorry, they really have. And the NV van is fumbled, the Altima's fumbled, the Maxima's fumbled. At some point, you fumble the ball so many damn times, the coach takes you out, or they do a different plan, right? I mean, that's what happens in football, especially your Bengals. Anyways, so you're looking at Japan. It's got to have a big stake in this truck, and they really have to have a lot. think they really want to spend more time over in Japan doing it, which really is, in my view of things, is ridiculous. Now, as you and I both know, I have been to Japan, and I've toured factories, and I've been over there. Japan doesn't know a damn thing about trucks.
Right.
Because there's no trucks over there. There's K trucks, but they have no idea. It's not in their front. It's not in their wheelhouse. And so I think it's fascinating to spend more of that in Japan. I was celebrating as a journalist that Toyota finally got more say in their North American operations. Recently, in the last couple of years, Toyota's made some changes with that, and they've actually given them more say. And I would love to see Nissan do the same thing. Love to see Nissan give North America its own, like, stamp of approval. You can do some own things. You can do, you know, go big or go home on your own success, on your engineers. I think Nissan's got some good engineers. I just think that they're handcuffed by what Japanese is forcing them to do.
Right. Well, you know, you were mentioning Toyota. Nissan, a lot like Toyota now, they have a global truck and they have a North American truck. You would think, because they're so strapped for cash right now, you would think they would want to make everything one model again. Do you see that they use America now as the sort of the proving ground for this next truck and then release it globally maybe a year later?
It depends how you see the marketplace. So, like, Toyota is one of the world's largest truck makers.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, not Ford. Sorry. It's one of the world's largest automakers, and they sell more Hiluxes than they do Tacomas.
Right.
And so their focus is more global than it is United States. And so the challenge is with Nissan is, do you spend, like they've done with the Titan, do you spend billions to grow your market share in the full-size truck market in North America, in Texas and Wyoming, and so it just gets so narrow, right? Or do you spend billions to grow your mid-size truck market globally, that is Asia and Europe and Russia and China and Africa and South America? I mean, it just seems so much bigger. I think the problem with Americans is we're so America first, we don't see the big picture all the time.
Right.
And that's why I don't think they can ever do one truck again, because what I'm hearing globally is that full size is starting to become more of people are asking for globally. You look at my channel, my statistics. I got a lot of people from Australia, a lot of people from England looking for full size trucks, because the Hilux and Navara, no matter how they change the springs, and how they may change the leaf springs, they reinforce the frame, all that kind of stuff, they still cannot pull the bigger RVs that these Australians are starting to get now.
Right.
And I was talking to Toyota last year, and they were saying that they were trying really hard to think about ways to make their Hilux do the job of a mid-size truck and a full-size truck, because people are asking for full-size trucks worldwide, because full-size trucks have become more fuel efficient than the mid-size trucks, and they have more payload, more towing capacity to get more of the job done.
Right.
And so, that's where it's like, and there's always bizarre stories, right? So Chevy sells a ton of Silverados in Saudi Arabia.
Really?
Like Dubai, Dubai. You can go to Dubai and buy a regular cab Silverado. They've been doing business over there for the past almost 20 years.
Yeah.
Right. Ram has, through some networks, exports right-hand drive Ram trucks into Australia.
Mm-hmm. And I know, I know Nissan.
So
Nissan is
globally what's going on.
Right, and Nissan has been trying to get the Titan down to Australia. I know Nissan Australia wants that truck badly. Yeah. And of course, the problem with Australian is they just don't have enough buying power. Like we used to, us in the States always wanted the Patrol or the Land Cruisers that they got, because they were getting them from Asia or directly from Japan. And then, they tried to build, they had Holden, and GM ruined that, and they just don't have enough buying power down there to get what we have. And of course, we always want what they have and don't seem to get it.
Yeah, that's what's changing with China. So China is easing up some of their air restrictions a little bit, and because of the rural areas want to grow, and the rural areas to grow need bigger trucks to do this stuff. So I think what you'll find is the Frontier is going to stay in North America, the Navara is going to stay worldwide, because the customer demands are different. So if you ever looked at Navara, and I've done a lot of analysis on this because it keeps coming up all the time, the Navara is narrower, it's taller, and it's shorter than the Frontier. Frontier is wider, shorter, and longer. And the payload capacity of the Frontier is like 2/3 at the level of a Navara, right? And the reason for that is because Americans want a smoother ride, and we want more fuel economy. The Navara is built for more of a do-it-all, heavy truck, never brake kind of thing.
Right.
And so the Navara rides rougher, and so when they do that, when they ride rougher, the ride's different. And because Americans want a little bit more room in the cabin, because we like our Taco Bell and McDonald's, right? And so because we want the more room in the cabin, that makes the cabin difference. And so we don't need, and we want a longer bed. Like I have so many friends around here that like, they won't buy a truck unless it has 8-foot bed.
Right.
A truck without an 8-foot bed is ridiculous. It's a useless truck, right? And so in here, you look at like a 4-foot bed, and my God, I have the Pro 4X got a 4-foot bed or whatever.
Yeah, it's a 5-foot bed.
Tape measure. The damn thing's small.
Yeah.
And you just won't do that. You just won't sell it in the United States because you got to have something for a motorcycle. You got to have something for us somewhere else. In the globally, that 4-foot bed's fine. I don't care about that stuff at all. That doesn't matter to them all. They're like, pull a damn trailer. You want more room. The Americans are dumb, right? So I mean, there's this whole difference, and so the trucks are fundamentally different. The customer demands are fundamentally different. The customer demands are growing globally for more towing capacity, which is causing more people to look at full size globally. But I never see Navara and Frontier becoming one-on-one again. Yeah. Just because of that.
Well, I know the problem in Europe is the road sizes. Like their roads are a little more narrow. Especially it's an older world. It wasn't built for full size trucks. So I could see some places that the full size Titan might work well, but then you get into maybe the older parts of France and stuff. I know there's a lot of tunnels, stuff like that I don't know if that truck would work there. But I know as far as Australia, their market is very similar to us. They're adventurers. They want to go out on the weekends, have a good time, dirt bikes, whatever. Now, I will say, I know the new current Navara, they went to a coil spring rear suspension on that truck. That's been, for speculation purposes, obviously the current 2020 you have is still leaf spring. That's been one of the things that people have been asking for in the community is, do you think that Nissan will actually pull the trigger and go coils? Because I know it is slightly more expensive to produce.
It just depends on what the customer wants to do with that truck, what they see that customer doing with that truck. I mean, Coil Springs, you get a little bit better ride quality because the bed's not bouncing as bad in the back.
Right.
But you do have a different issue with the payload problem, right? Depending on how you set the suspension. Ram's got away with it because of the 5-link suspension with the coils. I mean, so there's a lot more engineering involved in that.
Right.
It just doesn't seem like in the mid-sized truck segment that there's that much demand for a coil spring truck.
Well, I mean, but you do have the Gladiator in that coming around now.
Is the Gladiator coil springs?
Yes.
I thought it was coil springs. Really?
I believe it's. I'm talking out of my ass all of a sudden, but I believe it's coil springs.
I thought it was all leaf. Yeah. Well, it could be coil because FCA's done coil before. Yeah. They had the engineering to do it. I will tell you that Gladiator doesn't ride any better.
Really?
The damn thing's a turd. It really is. You take the Rubicon on the pavement, it's terrible. It's because of the tires. Tires are bad.
Yeah. Well, they kind of put an MT tire on it.
I've heard the coil leaf spring argument back and forth, and typically with coil springs, you have a better ride quality because the bed's not bouncing around as much. But you have some issues with payload because you have much more sag in the back when you load it up.
Yeah.
That's the thing with Ram trucks always been. Ram's always had a big sag problem. And they've done 5-link. That's why they do air suspension, right? So if you load up the bed and do the air suspension, you have the air suspension level it back up so you don't have too much squat.
Yeah.
Squat's not necessarily a bad thing, but it doesn't look good. That's
right. Well, yeah. And is it Ram that has the auto leveling deal on it now?
Yeah. There's a lot of them. Yep. And it'll level out the load as it goes. So that's the workaround. But then the problem with that, and especially in the truck world, is you keep adding these pieces, right? So coil springs, 5-link, air suspension, yada yada yada, and then it's like, okay, if something breaks, how do you fix it, right? Mm-hmm. Leaf springs, unless you're really a dumbass, they don't break, right?
Oh, I would argue that one. I've seen many break. But that's due to off-roading and physical abuse, basically.
Dumbass. So if you don't do that kind of stuff, if you use the truck within the parameters it's designed for, you shouldn't have any problem with leaf springs. But leaf springs are a little bit easier to replace too, because if you ever try to replace coils and you have the tools that shrink it down, you pull it out, and goddamn thing's like a grenade ready to go off.
Oh God, yes.
Touch it wrong, right?
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
So leaf springs a little bit easier to work with. People understand leaf springs. I don't think there's a problem with leaf springs. I think what's interesting with the Nissan Frontier, especially the 2020 model, and we've discussed this a little bit off air, is that there's a lot of discussion on whether that frame is the 2021 model or 2020 model.
Mm-hmm.
And I was underneath there yesterday, and I had my handy-dandy flashlight, and I was doing video of both that and 2019, looking at it. And what I think is interesting about that is that the frame is the same from the cabin back, and there is no high-strength steel in that frame.
Right.
And so if you right now people are using a lot of high-strength steel. And the reason why you do that is you do that in the cold spots of the frame. So the frame doesn't require that much load. You do high-strength steel. And you cut the weight, right? You don't need it as much in that spot. And it's stronger and it's thinner. So thinner doesn't mean weaker. Get out of your head.
Right.
High-strength steel is different alloy than regular steel. And these alloys allow it to be thinner and stronger. And so there's no mixed metals used throughout the Nissan Frontier frame. And that's very interesting now because every manufacturer I know of is using a mixed metal strategy to build frames, build trucks, whatever.
Right, which you did a video on, and if you guys would go check it out, man, it's a really good video. And which you had an engineer. Well, he worked for GM at one time, and he's doing his own thing now. Yeah,
he's with the steel market people or whatever the steel advocacy group. But yeah, he's a really interesting guy. 4 decades of experience designing frames and dealing with frames, stuff like that. So really a very interesting video, and I've learned a ton on frames in the past month thanks to some ZR2 and a Gladiator that bent the hell out of the frames.
Which I think in the end, probably your conclusion on that was just stupid pulling something they shouldn't have been at high speeds and just fatigue, right?
Yeah, it was driver error.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it really came down to. So if you don't know the story, a ZR2 and Gladiator were both towing travel trailers. They're ones with the overlanding with a little tent in the back kind of setup, and they both bent their frames right at the rear axle. What's interesting about it, and I've argued with people, and I will continue to argue with people because that's who I am, damn it. Anyways, they were they would go over whoops, and the whoops would at the point of whoops, the frame of the truck would take all of the weight from the trailer, and eventually the frame would bend around the rear axle.
Mm-hmm. And
the thing is that frame was meant to bend around the rear axle. That's how it's designed, is to go on the rear axle.
Right.
And there's a hole right by the shocks of the ZR2. And people were like, why'd you put a hole there if you want to have a strong frame? I'm like, well, that hole's actually doing a good service because in a rear end accident, if I were to hit your truck like this, I don't want your truck to move forward. Yeah. I don't want the frame to go upwards.
Yeah,
I want that frame to go down.
You're trying to disperse the energy.
Goes down.
Yeah, you're trying to get the energy to not go through the vehicle. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it goes down, hits the rear axle, and then the energy gets transformed. So that way you're in a cabin secure. So all those frames are the same thing. So then I thought, I went out and looked at the Nissan Frontier frame. And guess what it's got, David? It's got holes. 2 holes either side of the rear axle on the frame, because those are cold spots. Hot spots means you have a lot of activity. So anytime you have a lot of activity, like the front of the cab frame or the front of the cab,
right.
you don't have any holes, you have nothing going on, you have a lot reinforced steel there because you want to make sure that is the most sound structure. But towards the back, especially towards the end of the bed, that frame gets skinnier and skinnier and skinnier, because the end of the bed, if you're a dumbass that puts 50-gallon drums in the back of your truck and it goes like this and you bend the frame, well, that's on you, right?
Yeah.
Most people, when they load a truck, they put all the weight towards the front of the cab because that's the way the trucks are built. That's the way trucks are designed. It's been the way for my 62 is built that way. That's the way they've been for years. And so that was what happened there. But that frame is the same. That Nissan Frontier frame has the same holes right where the ZR2 holes are. And so if you were to beat that up like that ZR2 and Gladiator would, that would bend the same damn way. There's nothing special about the Gladiator ZR2 frames. And the fact of the matter is, there's only a couple of manufacturers that Tier 1 suppliers who build frames anyways.
Right.
So guess what? Quite frankly, the Nissan Frontier frame is probably built by the same people who build a ZR2 frame.
Right.
That's special there. Sorry, guys.
What is it, Dana, I think, that builds a lot of the frames? Magna. I know Nissan actually has whoever was the subcontractor here in Smyrna, they actually have the frame manufacturing right on site. But it's not Nissan by any means. It's a subcontractor.
It's a Tier 1, and that Tier 1 company is working with Nissan. The Tier 1 develops new ideas, goes Nissan designers look at it. They're working together. I mean,
right.
This is a joint effort, yeah, for sure. Yeah. But it's funny. I was driving the Frontier today, And I was thinking about this. I had the windows down, my country music playing, because that's who I am. Anyways, I was driving the Frontier today, and I was thinking about this myself. I was thinking, this is a great little pickup if they would have made a handful of changes, right? So, first of all, I'm a huge proponent of dampened tailgate.
Mm-hmm.
I opened that tailgate today, and Jesus criminy, for a little bitty truck, that damn thing's heavy.
It is heavy. And trust me, as a guy that uses that truck every day that had shoulder surgery 6 months ago, I know how heavy that thing is.
It's like I opened it, and I was like, what the hell is this? And I was like, oh my gosh. So, aluminum tailgate, aluminum hood, dampened tailgate. Very, very simple stuff, right?
Well,
inside the cabin.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Big screen and a steering wheel.
Mm-hmm.
The steering wheel sucks.
It's an ancient from the early 2000s steering wheel, and every time I get into my company vehicle, I see exactly what you're talking about. Of course, in 2009 they did give somewhat of an update in the dash a little bit, but no, you're right. If they would have just updated that truck every 2.5 years or so, they could have nobody would have said a word that the truck is 15 years old, because Toyota seemed to get away. Look at the 4Runner. How old is that thing now? Nobody. The fanboys of Toyota, you won't hear a peep about that, because Toyota is smart enough to every so often just do a little, not big refresh, just kind of what Nissan did with the Titan. Just refresh what you've got to just a little bit.
Yeah, just keep it fresh. Keep it, that would have been perfect. Because I was driving around thinking that same thing. I have to tell you this story. And this story may get kind of funny, but that's who I am. Anyways, I was doing the Nissan Titan launch in, what did that truck come out, 17?
16.
So 16, I was down in New Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
And doing the launch, and their interior designer shows up. I think it was, interior designer shows up to do the launch. And John Saws. And John Saws came, and I know him because Facebook friends, pick him all the time. Anyway, he made it unfriended me. Anyways, John Saws comes out from California. And John Saws wears white pants and boat shoes to a truck event. Now, I'm not judgmental at all, but sometimes when I see a dude show up with white pants and boat shoes at a truck event, I don't know. So right. John Saws and I get in the truck, and we're talking about it. And Nissan is infamous for this. They like putting buttons on the steering wheel. Mm-hmm. But unlike other manufacturers, they make sure their buttons stand out. So you know that you're touching a button, right?
Right.
They can't blend it in nicely. No, it's got to stand out. The volume button sticks out like whatever, eighth of an inch, whatever the deal is. And so I said to John, I said, what the hell, man? Like, why can't you just make the buttons a little bit soft touch, not so harsh, blend them in the steering wheel a little bit differently? And John was animate how much he loved these buttons, because as driving down the 405 in his Infiniti QX30, he didn't even have to know where the button was. He could press the volume up, volume down button on the steering wheel. And I was like, John, that's an Infiniti QX30. This is a truck.
Yeah.
Just like, dude. And nope. And I drive the Frontier today, and they drive me nuts. It's here's the thing that happens, and I've owned trucks for years, is that when you buy the new truck, you're always so excited about it because it's a new truck and you always get excited about it. But I will tell you, over the course of ownership of 2 years, of 3 years, or 4 years, the size of buttons and the size of where the knobs are and where stuff's located, it can really piss you off.
Mm-hmm.
It can drive you up a wall as you own the vehicle. And in the case of Nissans, I've always had a problem with that. And I don't know. And that's why I've tried like hell to do good reviews, and I love the Frontier. Absolutely love the Frontier. I love the size, Pro 4X, I like the size. I hate those damn buttons.
Yeah. No, I agree. The steering wheel on that thing, like I said, it's so dated, and they do it like the Z's been refreshed, the steering wheel. They know how to refresh a few things, but I think like you were saying earlier, the Frontier's been such a cash cow for Nissan. Like, yeah, they're not selling the 200,000 or whatever Toyota sells of Tacoma, but 15 years, the development's paid for itself 8-9 years ago. Like, it's just nothing but profit for them really now, besides what the basic cost. And the radio and everything, man, they've updated the radio like 3 times in the past couple of years for some reason. I guess because of backup cameras being mandated and all that.
Yeah, probably.
I know. One of my good listeners here, Ronald. He asked earlier, and Ronald, I have no idea of this. There, I'm getting hit. Any idea what the 2021 Frontier interior wise is going to be? And I can't answer that, Ronald, because honestly, the interiors they change those. Probably the prototypes they have now here in the States won't be anything close to what you get to see. Um, to that,
I always like
Tim.
to look at those as evolutionary. Like, so look at the last 2 or 3 product launches they've had, and like the Titan, was it the Ultima,
In the
Rogue,
Sentra,
something like that order, and just put those in your screen and do those evolution, and then you can kind of imagine what the fourth evolution is. Interior design is always evolutionary. That's always what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, because if you look at the current Frontier you have, and if you look at a Navara now, you can see the design is still there. That things are smooth. They might have a little platinum look to them now, but relatively they're the same. Which we were talking privately. I'd hit you up about the shifter on this thing. It's a global shifter on it. They went from the T shifter that the old Frontier had to now just like a straight shifting deal. And to me, when I saw this truck in Chicago, one of the downfalls of this truck was when I saw that doesn't match anything in that vehicle at all. If you focus in on the pattern, the little stitching of the shifter and all that, and even down to where it has the park drive and all those displays, it doesn't match at all. And then where they put the push button in this thing is like, well, you have literally a spot in dash that you could have done that. You know, the Titan has it in dash. They could. Why did they just not put it where the previous key was?
I think they have wiring problems. I think they had some sort of wiring problems to get there because it doesn't make any sense where it's at.
Yeah.
It's just not. To me, it's just not. I don't know. I think they had some wiring issues. That's the best thing I think of because it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
It makes absolutely no sense. It's gonna be covered with pop and whatever candy. I guess think about what one does in her car. Yeah. But anything that they people put down there, it's gonna get dirt on it. It's just a bad placement. I think with a new 2021, it's going to go back up where the Nissan Titan is, up along the like where the key kind of place is. But it doesn't make any sense. And you're right that the shifter is like it's just that's what I'm saying is I don't think Nissan's got a lot of money for R&D. I just don't see it.
Right.
And I think that's why they came up with this. Now they were telling a story that the powertrain was complete and done, and they didn't want to hold on to it any longer, so they wanted to put it out in the marketplace. I think that's mostly true. I think that engine and transmission were done. I think that part suppliers were like, what the hell? Why don't we move forward? And I think that Nissan's going to do the same thing with the NV van. I think the NV van gets the same powertrain.
Right.
Because it makes total sense for me to do it. And I think if the Nissan Titan sales were higher, that this would go in a Nissan Titan. I can't see it in Nissan Titan right now because build issues in the factory, production capacity issues, and the fact that Nissan isn't selling many Titans.
Yeah.
And that's why they don't offer a V6.
Well, in Canton, who they moved, truck production was here, or the Frontier was here in Smyrna, and they shoved it down in August of 12, they shoved it down to Canton because they were wanting Smyrna as their high-volume plant. And Canton still, like, they have quality issues. There's I don't know if it's where they're at or what's going on with Canton, but I know at one time they were building the QX56, the big Infinity SUV that's sort of based on the Titan,
right?
And it got so bad that Nissan pulled it away they sent it back to Japan because of quality issues. So I know there was a few things in Canton that they were having some problems with, and but overall Canton has the plan is built to. Have you been to Canton?
I have not.
Okay, it's a huge plan. It's like definitely they can, if they want to, output some vehicles. They're doing Ultima runoff right now, and of course the 5 Titan they sell a day. I think they build. They have some room, and if this truck takes off, I could see them really devoting it to being a Frontier, basically a Frontier plant, because Canton needs something to do basically, and of course we already know they won the contract to build this vehicle. I know we have Carlos Ghosn on here for one thing, Tim. He's back tonight. Yes. He's asking about the sound of this vehicle. Does the 2020, does it sound any different in your eyes versus the previous? I heard it on TFL, and I didn't think so.
Maybe it's somewhat quieter in the cab because you're shifting through gears faster, so you're not revving as high.
Right.
But I mean, I'd be picking at straws there without doing the apples back and forth.
Yeah.
I just think that when you hop into 2020 versus 2019, you'll notice a markedly different experience. It is a markedly different driving experience, and it just feels like it's unleashed now. And so it's such a more impressive drive experience than it has been in previous models.
Well, so now that you've drove this truck, you've got a feel for the transmission and everything. You were talking about using lighter steel. Definitely the next Frontier is going to be, there's going to be aluminum in that truck, right? There has to be.
There has to be, yeah. I mean, mixed metals make a lot of sense. There's certain places, like the Chevy Silverado was a great example. So anything that swings is aluminum, right? So doors, hoods, tailgates, because a lot of weight is on those pieces, and you can take a lot of weight out, and it helps the consumers, right?
Yep.
A lighter door, everybody's a fan of that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's easier to open, easier to close. And then those, like doors, have door skins on them, so if you damage them, you just put a new door skin on them, or you put a new door on there. You're not... The idea was that the body shops were banging out dents and putting Bondo and doing this. They ain't doing that crap anymore.
No.
Most of the body shops I know, most of the major ones I know, are just replacing entire body parts. Hell, I have a 66 I'm working on. For me to bang out the door dents was about 14 hours of work, and it was $45 for new door skins.
Yeah.
So you do the math. I mean, it's like, it doesn't make any sense at all. So I think you do those parts as door skins. You just replace the fenders because they're steel. You just do steel fenders so they withstand more stuff. But I think that's where it's going. I think all aluminum is a little bit of a problem because when you go all aluminum like the F-150 did, aluminum doesn't hold its... it's hard to stamp and hold aluminum into that stamping as you do it, which is what Ford found, that you can't do so many different styles and lines and stuff like that. But if you just do the doors, tailgates, and hood, you can do enough styling there, enough styling in the fenders to make it work. So I think that's where they can go with that truck. Every truck needs to cut weight. It's like that's what's happening. You talk to any consumer, they want it to be more fuel efficient and more fast to drive. Well, a truck is a brick on wheels.
Right.
So if you take some weight off, it's going to be more fuel efficient. That's what's going to happen. And if you take more weight off, it's fun to drive. It's two birds, one stone with one just taking weight off. And so I think that's where they can head with that truck. But it's just so interesting to me because it's like when I think of Nissan's got a new engineer, or new head of engineers for the truck side. He came up from South America. I don't know if he's still there, but he was there. And he was talking about how much he knows about Navara and how much he knows about the marketplace and how he wants to do the Frontier thing. I'm like, Nissan could really win big in the mid-size truck market. The mid-size truck market is one of the fastest growing markets in the automotive segment because the customer's tired of the full size. Full size is growing so big that they want something small. They want something runabout kind of truck. They want that price point. And so Nissan could really help boost volume, own this marketplace, and then move people from Frontier to Titan, right? Or Titan to Frontier. They could just do those back and forth. That'd be the way into the marketplace. And Nissan's already selling Frontiers. And I also think the thing is, in the mid-size truck market, it's not so brand loyal as the full size. Full size is very brand loyal. It's hard to fight, hard to get in the marketplace. I think Nissan's learned that over the years. Now, whether or not the management who learned that's still there, that's a question I have.
Right.
But I think they could really do well in the mid-size truck market. Years ago, I wrote a story for Truck Trend on the 5 reasons the Nissan Frontier still sells well, and their team loved it. They actually put it up on the billboard in their office. I mean, it's like I know why that truck sells, and I know why I'd buy that truck. I'd buy a Pro 4X today because it's $20-some thousand. It's a great little truck, and I could beat it up, and I have no problems with it at all. And I like the size.
Right.
And so I know why that sells. I'm a huge fan of the Frontier. And I just, it irritates me when I see them hanging in this truck in the vine for so long when they have an opportunity to really grow volume much more than Sentra did, much more than Maxima did, much more than Ultima did. All that cars crap. I don't cover the cars. But anyway, that stuff is done. But they could really do something here, and it's sad they haven't done it.
Well, and especially coming out of, say by June, we're done with the virus thing or, the mass hysteria about it. Like, if they would start teasing that truck now, And I've talked to a few people over there. You don't have to show the truck. If they would, I have a view of like if you're dusk in the desert and you just show some new headlights, the LED of the headlights, and all you see is a dust cloud coming from that, and it's coming towards the camera. Just start doing some things like that to start building excitement for the vehicle. You know, everybody picks on Chevrolet and Ford about, well, like the Bronco. We've seen the Bronco for 5 years before we ever seen the Bronco, you know. But the Nissan has a bad problem of like they just throw it on you and they give it about 2 weeks of some publicity and then they move on to something else. They need to really to get some excitement back into this, man. You do some kind of exciting ad. You start showing about the heritage. You put the hard body next to this. You show the current Frontier next to it, and you say, "Hey, man, we've been here. We brought the market, the mid-size market, to the United States. They were the first to do it, or I guess the pup truck at the time." But in stress to the American audience that we did this for you guys, and we're bringing out the next most kick-ass truck. Now, as we wind this down, and I do appreciate you being on for this time. Do you think Nissan has a habit of shortchanging horsepower? And now I won't say in this truck because it probably is what it is. But do you think for 2021 they're holding a little bit of this motor back because they're only GM is what 307 the little Colorado is, I think, horsepower. So they're sort of class leading, but not by much really. Do you think that they bump it up to maybe 315, something like that?
I think they probably could. I mean, it's pretty easy with engine development to add a little more horsepower.
Mm-hmm.
I think what they'll find is that when they drop the weight, it'll be quicker.
Yeah.
And I think they'll find that maybe they'll find some more horsepower savings in there too.
Well, but you're a truck guy, and truck guys like that HP. They're all about the horsepower.
You know, I do and I don't. I'm very conflicted on this. I'm very conflicted because I think in the full-size truck segment, horsepower makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
We had the horsepower wars for years in the 90s, and it makes a lot of sense. Then we had the towing wars. You know, none of the number you put out in full-size truck, Ford's going to beat it by 5 pounds.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the way it is in full-size. My question is, and Nissan did this with Titan, and I had a question with them, similar idea, is that in the mid-size truck market, do people really care about horsepower? That is my big concern with mid-size. Is that a selling feature? And I referenced Titan because when it came out of Titan, one of their biggest sales pitches was they had a long warranty.
Mm-hmm. And
in the full-size truck segment, the response was, well, if you built it better, you wouldn't need to warranty it as long.
Right.
I mean, so that wasn't a big selling feature. They didn't move a lot of people to Titans because of that. So when you go to midsize, I don't know many customers in midsize are asking for more and more horsepower. I don't remember hearing that very much. I remember hearing diesel,
mm-hmm.
Manual transmission, off-road capability. I don't remember much about mid-sized truck market asking for horsepower.
Right.
And I really am fascinated by this idea that customers are asking more horsepower. Fuel economy, sure. Fuel economy in the mid-sized truck segment, you know. But and what's hard with this whole discussion is that, and I tell people all the time, is that the mid-sized truck market is becoming such a different place than full-size. It's becoming so different. It's like two different markets completely, two different customers completely.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, because if you're going to shop for a truck and you see a Colorado versus Silverado and the price is the same, no, you just I'm gonna go Silverado, you know, bigger truck, I get to do more stuff. But that mid-sized truck customer is so specific. They want to get something in and out easily. They want to get in the bed easy and out easily. They want to be able to park it in the garage. They want to take it to dinner and park it in a parking spot. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's so many different stories. And I've talked to mid-sized truck customers who are like, yeah, I spent $45,000. I remember this guy did a story. He spent $45,000 in a GMC Canyon Denali. And so I called him on the phone. And I'm talking to him on the phone about this truck. And I did a written story on this. And I said, why did you spend that much on the truck? He goes, I can't take a full size down the trails of Pennsylvania without taking out trees.
Yeah.
He goes, this truck fits on the trails. I feel comfortable driving it. I can park in my garage. And he goes, I wanted more features. He goes, actually, I was pissed at GMC because I couldn't get all the features I wanted when I bought my truck.
Huh.
And I was like, you spent $45,000 on a mid-sized truck. And he's like, no. He goes, I wanted more stuff, but I couldn't get all the features at that time because they didn't offer all the options that I wanted.
Right.
But he goes, this is my forever truck. He was a retired Marine, I think it was, 60, 67, 68, whatever.
Yeah.
He wants to go hunting with his buddies and take down the trails and not worry about dinging his truck up. And he wants to park in his garage. And he's like, he goes, my house is paid off. I got everything paid off. I want to spend money on a nice truck.
Right.
And he goes, I went and bought the truck I wanted.
Well, and I will say that I am more of a mid-sized truck guy. Like, for some of the reasons when I want to throw, if I have some garbage I need to go dispose of or something, I just throw it in the back of it. I'm not carrying around 8-foot plywood. Like, that's not just, if I need to, my little truck can do it. But that was the biggest thing I noticed from going to the Titan, and I've had full-size trucks, but I got used to the mid-size, was to go to the local Sonic drive-in. You go into one of them stalls with the Titan, and I've got the tow mirrors and everything, and you've been in the Titan, you know the little alarms that go off when the sensors get close to everything. You're like almost sweaty palms trying to drive this thing into one of those little bays, and I remember my little Frontier just right in and out, like, kind of carefree, just doing my thing. And that was the biggest thing, like, when we're dedicated to buying a 2021 Frontier, but that was the biggest thing. My wife loved the V8 of the truck, the Titan. She just really liked that truck, and I never thought she would adapt to a truck. For one, like, she loves her Xterra, and that was her forever vehicle, but she really took the Titan over and used it as her daily vehicle and loved it, loved the V8. She could park the thing like ease, and then I get into this little thing after driving my mid-size truck, and I'm just like, what the hell, man? Like, I don't want to pull this thing into tight spots. So as I wind down, this is our last question, Tim, and I'll let you go. So Raptor obviously is the plateau of off-road trucks. Now, I like a Raptor. I think it's a good-looking vehicle. But the Raptor, it gets this, I'm off-road. The Raptor is a desert runner. It's not an off-road vehicle, in my eyes, per se. It's made to go fast over bumps, whoop-de-woos, and you go have fun with it. It's not, in my eyes, not that any full-size truck's a rock crawler, but when I think of what the majority of the Nissan people I know, they want something that they can go take, like you were saying, go in the woods, kind of have some fun, sort of Jeep-esque, have some fun with it, and then, drive it daily back and forth to work. Nissan they had the Warrior. I got to see the Warrior in person. I know you've seen it. They had the perfect idea, but do you think they can shrink this truck down now and make it into a special Frontier?
Of the Warrior?
Yes.
You think the Warrior could go smaller?
Yes. I think that they still get, if I post a picture of a Warrior on my Instagram, I will get more likes and follows from that stupid picture than anything else. They hit on with the color, the orange with the gray, everything about that truck they hit, except to me the diesel engine that they had in it. People want that truck, and clearly Titan doesn't sell well. They don't sell enough of Titans to justify making a $80,000, $90,000 Titan. But I do think they sell enough Frontiers that they can maximize the Titan of sorts, the Warrior of sorts, and do a special package, whether it be Nismo come in, getting involved, and Nismo hasn't been in the truck since like 2007, 2008. So they did something with the Frontier, but I really think, like, if they want to maximize on this new truck, they need to have a Halo truck.
Right.
Basically.
Every manufacturer needs a Halo for sure. I mean, for sure. And the Warrior should be a Halo for them. I mean, that thing was it broke the internet. I mean,
yes.
It just literally got all the attention. I mean, I could totally see them doing that. I don't think they can make smaller because the profit margin in a Frontier at that price point wouldn't be enough. The Raptor works because Ford had the balls to do it.
Right. And
the Raptor works because the higher price point. And
right.
It's not an F-150. Right. The Raptor is not an F-150. It is its own truck. And it shares some components, sure, but it's a one-off own thing. I don't think Nissan's got the balls to do it. I think management's gotten beat around by the Titan. I think they've lost faith in the Titan. I think they've lost faith in the full-size truck market. I don't think they have a leadership there that has the balls to pull it off.
Right.
I don't think they do.
But look at Gladiator. Gladiator, they're selling them for $60,000, $70,000. I'm not saying this truck has to be a bargain by any means, but I'm guessing the current Pro 4X package is $36,000 to $38,000 for their at the time top of the line Frontier. I believe they could get $53,000 to $55,000 for a midsize truck, and still be a bargain versus Gladiator.
I think they. So, my issue with Nissan in this segment is that what does the Pro 4X mean? The name.
Right, and I did a video on this.
It's like some secretary came up with it on a lunch break or something. It just doesn't mean a damn thing. So definitely they need like a Nismo name. They need something that has some brand equity that they've used elsewhere in the world. That would make some sense. But they could take this midsize truck to another level. The ZR2 is well above and beyond what the Colorado can do at that segment.
Right.
So you could do a Frontier Nismo. You could do a Frontier thing. You could borrow ideas from the Warrior, make it a one-off. So if you look at the Colorado ZR2, it's got a new grille. It's got new bumpers. It's got a whole – and I'm telling you, that whole front end makes that truck look completely different.
Yes, it does.
They do the AEV version of it without the skid plates and the air intake if you want to. But – it's a completely different truck as well. When you partner Colorado versus ZR2 together, they look like different models, like different years. It doesn't even look close to each other. I think Nissan could do something like that. They could take the Warrior idea, put it into like a Frontier Nismo, I guess in this case would be a different version of it, and they'd have completely different trucks, and it'd be very, very clear that there's one that's a Halo one that you aspire to buy,
right,
and one that your wife and you agree that you're going to buy.
Well, and that's like you're saying with Pro 4X. I'm a Nissan guy, so I understand Pro 4X, and the badging that they do on that truck that you have, I like. Something about the colors. Oh. What are y'all doing? Okay. Sorry, Tim. My dog went nuts out there. But so I know what Pro 4X is, and I like the logos of that. I think on Titan, it's horrible. They tried to go too much Dodge with it, and but definitely you're right. Pro 4X is not a step above. Like you get a locker in it, and that's basically it. You get some cool badging, and that's it. They do need the next, if it's from an SV, the next whatever needs to be 2 steps up, like you're saying with ZR2.
Well, yeah, and Chevrolet learned that with the Z71, right? So the Z71 package, and the marketing guy for Chevy and I got into it one night. Might have had alcohol involved. Anyways, we got into it about the Z71. I said, just stickers package. He got pissed off. He's like, no, skid plate, this, that, and the other. And I said, damn thing's a stickers package.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, man. And then they came out with the Trail Boss. Well, the Trail Boss, lift, tires, skid plates, that thing's pretty badass.
Yeah.
And it looks different. New grill, that looks different. So I think that's where the market is. The market used to be you throw a skid plate on it, you throw some graphics on it, you're cool, you're done. No.
Yeah.
The market now is I need a lift, I need lockers, I need badging, I need wheels, I need front end grill, I need a rear grill. So
right.
I need changes.
Right. Well, Tim,
Nissan's got to step up and do that.
I appreciate you being on tonight, man, and talking about that truck. I'm assuming you've got a video or two coming on this truck down the road, right?
Yeah, I'll do a video next week for sure. I've already done 2 today, so it's kind of funny. But no, I have a full review coming out next week. I just need to spend a little more time in it before I get that done.
Right. Well, guys, go over to Pickup Truck and SUV Talk, and for one, go follow his socials, man, because Tim's always, from the funny pictures you post up on your Instagram all the time, those are great. I was sharing something funny with you today that I see and that I knew you would love. But you're just always...
post that.
Do what?
I gotta post it. I forgot about posting it.
But you have some just fun stuff, and of course you're deep into it. I know you're kind of a Toyota guy, but you do cover all the brands. Like you really like Toyota. I have a feeling.
I know. Well, the thing that I get labeled with that is really funny. People label it in different ways. The reason I know Toyota so well is that I was running Thunder headquarters for that was my first job.
Right.
And so I was writing about them all the time. I bought my first Toyota when I was running that site, but I've actually owned Chevys my entire life.
Yeah, because your dad worked for GM or something, right?
Yeah. So if you want to label me, label me a GM guy. But I tell you what, that new Ram's pretty damn cool.
Yeah.
And I would love a Ram Power Wagon. If I could I'd buy a Power Wagon all day long.
Right.
And I actually the funny thing with me is the one criticism I have is for myself is Ford is the one brand I know least about, and Ford's the one brand I try to cover the most because
Right.
I don't know much about them. So I get it's funny, I get labeled all sorts of stuff, and it's just because I've had some success with Toyota, the big stories, and I like them all.
Right. And you
I
actually
really
have a
don't
Nissan. You have a hard body, right?
Yeah, we have a Nissan at the farm, and my family's got a bunch of old Dodges. Uncles have Fords. I mean, we own everything in this area.
Yeah.
So I come across all sorts of stuff. I just I happen to have experience with Chevys, but if I never turned down a Ford,
Right.
I love driving their, especially the Raptor, the FX4 package. You know, I love driving their stuff.
Right. Well, I know you do a live chat on Mondays, and
Yep.
it's hard to say when you release videos because you release breaking news videos and all the time. But guys, if you haven't yet, go subscribe to Tim's channel. I mean, Tim, I'm like an ant in Tim's giant 6'7" dude world. So we're working to get there up there with Tim. But if you guys want like a guy that is a journalist and enthusiast about and loves vehicles and loves trucks especially, go follow Tim over there and tell him the NNP sent you if you do. And join me on Mondays. Like I love like I have fun in your chats. Like your chats on your live stream are their own channel now, basically. Like you'll answer questions and stuff, but it's getting to be like a family of people that just know each other.
I log in sometimes. I'm like, all right, guys, slow down. I haven't started the live stream yet.